Good evening, everyone. We're going to call tonight's meeting to order. We are going to start with an approval of the agenda. There's a recommendation that tonight's agenda and addendums be approved. Councillor Andrews and Councillor Pendergast, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Are there any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I do need a motion to head into our closed session, moved by Councillor McIntosh, seconded by Councillor Sherwood. We are going into closed for the purposes of considering the following subject matters. To consider closed council minutes from August 14th, a confidential report regarding rail spur lines at 33 Centennial Road, a confidential report regarding a rail spur line behind 40 to 50 Centennial Road, and 4.4 is a confidential report from David Smith, our CAO. So can I have a vote on going into close? All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. We are now in closed session. Good evening, everyone. We're going to call tonight's meeting to order. We are going to begin with the singing of our national anthem. So if you could please rise if you're able.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
We would like to acknowledge the treaty lands and territory of the Williams Treaty Nations and of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We also recognize that Dufferin County is the traditional territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee and is home to many Indigenous people today. Tonight's meeting is being aired on public television and or streamed live and may be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of tonight's meeting. Any member of the public who's connecting via telephone is reminded to press *6 to mute and unmute. Please remain muted until the chair requests comments or questions from the public. Tonight, it's a pleasure to have a couple of special guests here for some recognition. Give me 1 second here. It's an honor and privilege to have the opportunity to recognize the outstanding contributions of two remarkable women, Robin Berger and Nina Little, to our beloved community. They've dedicated their careers to serving the people of Dufferin County, and their tireless efforts have left an indelible mark on our community. Let's start by acknowledging the remarkable career of Robin Berger. With 49 years of service as a nurse and lactation consultant in Dufferin County, Robin's commitment to public health is nothing short of inspiring. Her journey began in 1974 when she joined the Wellington Dufferin Guelph Public Health Unit as a public health nurse, and she continued to serve in this role until 2011. Robin's dedication to supporting new moms and their families on their breastfeeding journey is particularly noteworthy. And as a new mom myself, way back in 1999, I can tell you firsthand that Robin's kind, gentle, and encouraging manner turned a pretty difficult situation for me into an overall great experience. In 1994, she became a certified lactation consultant, becoming the first nurse to earn the certification locally. In 1996, Robin, along with two other public health nurses, collaborated with obstetric staff at the hospital to establish the Community Breastfeeding Center, which at that time was a pioneering initiative that has positively impacted countless families. In 2011, Robin further extended her commitment by opening her private breastfeeding clinic in partnership with our second honoree here tonight, Nina Little. Her list of accolades is extensive, including the Sylvia Segal Award of Excellence in 2007 and the Gary Putnam Award in 2008. Robin has also been recognized as a hero in the Hills magazine for her invaluable contributions to our community. One of Robin's significant achievements is her co-authorship of a study titled Breastfeeding Trends in a Community Breastfeeding Center, an evaluative study, published in the prestigious Journal of Obstetric Gynecological Neonatal Nursing in 2001. This study underscores her commitment to research and to improvements in maternal and child health. Now, equally deserving of recognition tonight is Nina Little, a dedicated professional in the fields of child development and educational psychology. Nina's journey began in 1979 when she became the first consultant in the Wellington Dufferin Guelph Infant Stimulation Program, now known as the Infant and Child Development Program. For over 4 decades, she provided vital support, development screening, and referrals to families in need, touching their lives in immeasurable ways. Nina's commitment to education extended to her role as an instructor in child development at Georgian College. Additionally, she played a crucial role in establishing the Dufferin Down Syndrome Society parent group, fostering a sense of community and support for parents of children with Down syndrome. Nina was nominated for the Gary Putnam Award from DCAFS in 2014 and received the OAIDC Above and Beyond Award in 2018, further exemplifying her outstanding service to our community. What makes this recognition even more special is the extraordinary collaboration between Robin and Nina. They share a vision for supporting parents of babies and young children, believing that this support is the cornerstone for the positive outcomes for family and communities. Together, they created initiatives such as Little Angels, which was a support group for parents of infants born prematurely, and the Parents of Spirited Children research and program, which helped parents navigate the challenges of raising children with unique temperaments. In times of crisis like the COVID-19 pandemic, Nina volunteered at Robin's private breastfeeding clinic, ensuring that essential services remained available to mothers and babies. Their commitment to the community during these challenging times exemplifies their unwavering dedication to those that they serve. Robin and Nina's legacy is one of compassion, dedication, and selflessness. Their shared philosophy, "They won't care how much you know until they know how much you care," has been guiding the principle behind their incredible work. Their contributions have touched the lives of countless families in Dufferin County, and their legacy will continue to be cherished for years to come. So today, on behalf of Town of Orangeville Council, I am so pleased to express our heartfelt gratitude to Robin Berger and Nina Little. We thank them for their unwavering commitment to our community and for being shining examples of selfless service and dedication. Your impact will continue to be felt for generations, and we are all grateful for your service. So please join me in showing our thanks with a much-deserved round of applause. Thank you. Thank you to you and your families for being here tonight. I will open the mic if either of you wish to make comment. No pressure. No, we're good. They're both such humble women. We were trying to get information from them and they couldn't stop saying nice things about each other instead of telling us what they had done in their lives. So thank you both for being here and thank you for everything you've done for our community. We appreciate it. Now, to keep the good news rocking, we are going to use the next couple of minutes to welcome Axel to our community. Axel is a 16-year-old student from Denmark who is here in Orangeville on a Rotary exchange that's sponsored by Highlands Rotary Club of Orangeville. Axel is currently attending grade 11 at Robert F. Hall in Caledon East, where his favorite subject is biology. He loves animals and hopes to study to become a veterinarian when he's older. I do want to turn the meeting over for a second to Mary Ann Tate from the program to talk briefly about the club and the program. Mary Ann, welcome. And you can bring Axel up with you if you'd like. And if you just want to, we'll make sure the mic's turned on for you.
Can you hear me?
We can. Welcome, Axel. And welcome, Mary Ann.
Hello, everyone. And thank you for welcoming Axel, our Rotary International Exchange student from Denmark. The Orangeville Highlands Club is a 30-year-old club with just about 15 dedicated members, but we decided to take on the task of hosting an exchange student this year, and we're thrilled to have Axel from Denmark. Now, most of you know the community because you've attended the Taste of Autumn Gala, which has raised funds for Headwaters Healthcare Center, Family Transition Place, the Island Stage, the Medicine Wheel Park, Rotary Park, just to name a few of the centers we've assisted with. And we've also helped out with nonprofits like the Alzheimer's Society of Dufferin, Hospice Dufferin, the Orangeville Food Bank. And this year we're thrilled that our Taste of Autumn Gala will be supporting the Dufferin Men's Shelter with food security. So we're looking forward to seeing some of you this Saturday night for our annual Taste of Autumn Gala. Now, we may see you on World Polio Day, October 24th, where we will raise a flag in honor of our largest international project, which is the goal of eradicating polio. And we look forward to participating once again in the long-held tradition of the Santa Claus Parade and the Christmas in the Park. So thank you for your support of the Rotary Club of Orangeville Highlands. And Axel would be very thrilled to spend some time with any of you telling you about Denmark. Thank you.
That is wonderful. Axel, do you have anything to add? No, okay. Man of many words. More than anything, Axel, we really just wanted to take this opportunity to welcome you to the community. We'll be excited to hear how your stay in Orangeville goes. And I hope that before you leave to head back home that you'll come back and see us and update us on how you like our community. So everybody take a moment and just welcome Axel officially. Thank you. Okay, before tonight's open portion of the meeting, we did have a closed session. So from that session, I'll read the following rise and report. There is a recommendation that the minutes of the 2023 August 14th closed council minutes be approved, and that the confidential report CAO-2023-11 rail spur lands at 33 Centennial Road regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board be received, and that the confidential report CAO 2023-12 rail spur land behind 40 to 50 Centennial Road update regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board be received, and that council declare the closed rail spur located behind 40 to 50 Centennial Road as surplus to the needs of the municipality, and that council directs staff to provide notice to the public in accordance with the town's notice policy, and that the confidential verbal report from David Smith, CAO, public office holders regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, be received, and that staff proceed as directed. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Andrews and Deputy Mayor, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Next, we will move on to adopt the minutes of the following meetings, which is the council meeting minutes from the 11th of September. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Sherwood and Councillor McIntosh, questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. We will move into the presentations, petitions, and delegations portion, starting with Derek Curry, the manager of Capital Works, who will be doing a presentation regarding pavement markings update. Over to you, Mr. Curry. Oh, pavement management update, sorry.
Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. As always, it's a privilege and an honor. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about our pavement management that we've been working on for the last year or so since we did have the start of the Capital Works division. So what is and why do we need pavement management? Asphalt's expensive. As our CAO recently has said, asphalt's gone up by about 30% in the last year. We also need it to help present our budgets. We just can't say one year we need X amount of dollars and next year we need X plus dollars. It also follows in line with our asset management practices. But most importantly, it takes us from being a municipality that's reactive with our roads to being a proactive community. So what is asset management? I'm going to read you the Wikipedia answer to that. It's a systematic process of developing, operating, maintaining, and upgrading of assets in the most cost-effective management. Pavement management is exactly as asset management. So what is that in a nutshell? Basically, we need 5 things to know. We need to know what we have. We need to know what condition it is. We need to know how do we keep it in a good condition. We need to know when to do it. And the big thing is we need to know how much. So the first question, what do we have? The town maintains approximately 125 centerline kilometers of arterial, collector, and local roads, representing a replacement value of $305 million. That is the single biggest asset the town has. Our combined assets are around $1 billion. So 1/3 of our assets are our road network system. An investment this important needs to be carefully maintained. Sound pavement management practices not only align with the town's asset management practice, our strategic policies, but it also in the long term will save us millions of dollars in road reconstruction costs and maintenance costs. So there are two major mechanisms to address road repairs. Number one is road reconstructions. This is where we go in and we replace the entire road, sidewalks, curb, road bases, and there's road resurfacing, where we go out and we grind off a portion of the road, repair any curb and sidewalks. The town has a very robust road reconstruction program because we've had to. Our roads have deteriorated to a point where we can't resurface. Currently, the town does not have a dedicated road resurfacing program. So what condition is our roads in? So pavement is measured in what we call pavement condition index. It's given a value between 100 and 0, where 100 is being perfect, newly paved road, and 0 is something that you don't want to drive on. In 2020, we did do an opinion-based road condition survey, which identified 46% of the roads were in need of repair, whereas in 2015, the same study identified, actually, it's 39%, not 31, as is in the report here. So I was given direction by this council to do a new road network survey this year and make it not an opinion-based, but rather a data, an analytical based program where we actually went out and measured the rutting, the stresses, the cracks, the rutting of the asphalt. And we are going to get those results. And it says in October, we're behind a little bit. We're going to get that in November, where I can come back and give you a much more updated report. This is important because my opinion of the opinion-based survey was that the roads were overvalued, which means I think we have roads that are far worse than 46%. But that's why we do a data analytical based analysis, so we'll know exactly for sure. My opinion is going to differ from someone else's opinion, but once the data comes in, there's no debating it. So what is a PCI? So if you look here, this road, this is actually Montgomery Boulevard, which has very, very little distresses. It's in great riding condition, no cracking. And what makes this road even more remarkable, it's 20 years old. So it's a road of PCI 70 to 80. This is Amelia Street. You've got some cracking on it. You've got some service distressions. You've got some thermal cracking on it. And that area right at the beginning, that's where a manhole is located and is starting to let go. Still a really, really good road. Probably another 10 years before you need to resurface it. This is Rolling Hills Drive. This is a perfect road for resurfacing. The cracks have gotten to be more than 2 to 5 millimeters. You have more of the construction cracking. You've got some rough riding roads. And then if you look down on the bottom right-hand corner, we have something that we call alligator cracking. So if the alligator cracking is actually a technical term, because if you look at that, it looks like the back of an alligator. This is what you don't want to see in your roads because the asphalt has lost all structural integrity and is now working on the base, and you're losing strength in the base. This is perfect to resurface. This kind of road, if you resurface now with a double lift, which is an 80 mil lift, will get us another 25 years. So if you don't fix roads like this is what you get. This is an actual road here in town. As you can see, it's completely alligatored crack, which means that the road no longer has structural integrity. The water is now getting into the base, causing granular base defects. Now, when I said my opinion of the road survey wasn't exactly what the road survey was. In the previous road survey, this was given a PCI index of 68. I would personally rate this at about a 50. So that's why with the new study we're going to get a more data-driven survey. So what condition is it in? What condition are our roads in? As of the last road needs study, 24 road segments were identified in need of work. 5 segments are not identified in the capital year 10-year capital plan, thus leaving a funding gap of $10.7 million. Still a very robust program. Where we're falling behind in is our resurfacing. So 117 roads were identified in the last report. 99 of these are not on the 10-year forecast, leaving a $22.4 million funding gap. And as I will explain just in a second, that's going to become a lot bigger if we don't do anything. So roads don't deteriorate in a straight line linear fashion. They actually deteriorate in an exponential fashion. So if you take a look at the graph here, you actually have about 20 years where the road deteriorates very little, and then you've got rapid deterioration. So the way we actually want to maintain a road is before it hits the curve. So if you can spend $1 on top of the curve versus spending $6 to $10 at the bottom. So the top represents resurfacing, the bottom represents a road reconstruction. So pavement management practices are trying to hit the roads at the right time. So how should we maintain our roads? Years 1 to 20 is general maintenance, such as patching, curb replacement, catch basin repairs, things like that, crack sealing. Year 20 to 40, we should be doing double or single lift overlays. Year 40 to 60, we should be doing double lift and or structural repairs. And then after year 60 and on, the infrastructure, the underground infrastructure has deteriorated that you need to do a full reconstruction. But every time that you do a resurfacing, you're setting the clock again on that decay curve that I just showed you. So spending $1 up here is better than spending $10 at the bottom of the road decay curve. So how much do we need? The big question. So current needs analysis identified a funding gap of 10.7 million in road reconstruction. That is not going to go up with the exception of inflation. So once a road is hitting a point of certain disrepair, there's not much more that's going to happen. But when you said you want to do it at the top of the curve and not the bottom of the curve, that's because doing a road resurfacing at the top of the curve right now is costing about $70 a square meter. If we need to do a road reconstruction, it's about $575 per square meter. And that's in today's dollars. So remember when I said we had about a $22 million funding deficit on the resurfacing? If we let that go to a point where it needs to be reconstructed, we're now looking at about $130 million, and that's in today's dollars, not tomorrow or down the line. So current funding initiatives for the road reconstruction should remain the same. I think it's very robust, and we will get to the end of them. So what I am proposing tonight is that council look into creating a dedicated road resurfacing program for the town with the funding initiatives that I've outlined in this slide. So just to give ourselves a little bit of a kudos here, this is Broadway 2 weeks ago. This is Broadway yesterday. That's resurfacing, and that's going to give us 15 to 20 years. So what is going to happen if we don't invest in our roads? We lose them. Thank you very much, and I'd be most happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curry. We will start with Councillor Andrews, then Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much, Mr. Curry, for your report. I will agree with the data-driven information that council is looking for, because this is how we make decisions. You know, it helps us. You know, I know visually, anecdotally, those kinds of comments are certainly apparent from many members of our community that will say, "I've got a pothole," or "I see that in our neighborhoods." I could ask two questions, but there's one that I think I'm going to focus on, and you know, your expertise is very much welcomed when I have had the opportunity of speaking with you. Montgomery, you gave us as an example. What's the difference with Montgomery and some of the other installations? You know, here's an artery in our community that's 20 years old and it looks pristine. What's the difference?
It starts with the initial construction. So I mean, I wasn't here when this happened, but I'm assumed it was built right. It was built with the right construction methods, the right techniques. It was probably built as an arterial road, and I assume it doesn't receive arterial traffic. So traffic right now is the worst thing that you can do for your roads. The heavy trucks, the bigger trucks are just devastating our roads. So I think Montgomery Boulevard just gets more car traffic, which is a big thing, but it goes right back from the start. Mm-hmm. When we develop, we need to develop right, and it shows.
Well, it certainly does. And my second question, Your Worship, is pertaining to a conversation we've had offline. I know that from a societal perspective, we're looking at the embracement of EVs, depending on how people decide to head down that path. But of course, one of the biggest pieces has been the impact on infrastructure and, in fact, the weight of the EVs. And who is going to end up, of course, looking at those repairs as we have more electric vehicles that are embraced by from a societal perspective? It's just going to expedite and increase the number of roads that are failing. So, I really appreciate the plan that you've put in place, and I feel that we're heading in the right direction if we look at road resurfacing as opposed to full reconstruction.
Well, I'm a taxpayer here, and I'd much rather pay the $10 instead of the $120 to fix roads. So yes, we do need a proactive program.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, through your worship, to Mr. Curry. Thank you very much for this presentation, and it really does open my eyes on how badly we need a resurfacing program. To see these statistics that you provided with us, especially when it comes to cost, is it's really hard to fathom. I know you're not asking for any money this evening, thank God, because I think you wanted to leave here with a $22 million check. But I am going to just a sidebar here and ask our treasurer. I know this is it looks like we're probably going to have a funding request in the 2024 budget of 1.5 to implement this program. Can you give us a roughly an estimate on to what that will mean to our tax levy?
Mr. Curry? Sorry, Mr. Kelly?
Close. Thank you for the question, Councillor Sherwood. So just to be clear, the program put forward asks for $1.5 million annually. There is currently a small portion within the operating budget of around $185,000 annually for resurfacing and patching, not nearly the amount that's being looked for here. With regards to the impact on the tax levy, the tax levy as it sits right now, every 1% adjustment equates to approximately $400,000. So based on that, we'd be looking at around 3.75% simply to reach the $1.5 million target put forth here. Having said that, current year tax levy increases aren't the only source of funding for programs such as this. If we look at shifting of funds from other programs such as what used to be the Federal Gas Tax Canada Community Building Fund or OSIF funding towards this, look at drawing on reserves, which is a full other conversation to fund a component of it. It may not simply be a 3.7% levy increase. We'd look at all sources. Another piece to that, looking at the asset management program here with the town, it did reference items such as this and the need to look at a special asset management levy, special dollars set aside specific for building programs to fill these gaps. That study was presented to this council and the previous council, indicating how big the gap is and the various mechanisms that can be used. Considering a special asset management levy, which is a staged approach to building up those funds, not one big hit at a time, maybe another avenue, but all of that would come forward during the capital budget process.
Thank you very much. I look forward to those discussions in budget with you, our treasurer, Mr. Kelly, and Mr. Curry.
Thank you. Was Deputy Mayor? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just to you, Mr. Curry, I can barely see you over the TV screen there, but I just wanted to share publicly, I did want to congratulate you on your most recent project. The Broadway project was fantastic. It was done at the time that you said it started, and it was finished at the time that you said that it would finish. And I was just amazed by that, which is kind of sad if you think about it, because that's not the experience we have in Orangeville. So kudos to you on that. And then the second piece would be is, I love your planful approach. It's certainly the way I would approach things in my day-to-day activities and my role here as council. However, it does concern me about what we're going to do. And again, I just wanted to state publicly, we're going to see a whole picture here over the next month or so. And, what you say makes perfect sense to me. And if it was just in isolation, I'd say, let's do this. Let's get this done. I don't even know why you got to page 2 because it makes sense. But I worry about what the rest of the picture is going to look like and how we're going to navigate through the inflationary environment that we're in. So we'll see how this goes. But I do appreciate your report.
Mr. Curry, do you have additional comment?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. It was a team effort. And in construction, usually it doesn't go as planned. So the construction guys were really looking out for us for the Broadway job, and it did turn out very well. And I will give kudos to the paving company that did the job, and they did exactly what they offered. Regarding your second comment, I totally agree. We can't get everything that we ask for, but something needs to be done now. And actually, as we discussed, this should have been done 15 years ago. So we can't fix the past. We can only make the future better. So if we can't start at the $1.5 million, we start somewhere. Because as that deterioration curve shows, the roads will not get better. They're only going to get worse and exponentially worse.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. Any final comments from council? Questions? No? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Up next, we do have Mr. David Nairn, the Director of Theatre Orangeville, to give us an update on Theatre Orangeville. I should have started my presentations and delegations with just reminding everybody that there is a 5-minute limit. We do have lots of delegations, and I'm not just centering you out, Mr. Nairn.
Oh, great. I get the time limit.
5 minutes, you're up.
Thank you, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to share with you some of the ongoing things that are taking place directly over your head. The stage, of course, is located directly above this room. This is the 30th season of Theatre Orangeville as a registered not-for-profit, fully professional theatre company. Again, this year we have a great playbill of exceptional Canadian stories that as always reflect the ever-changing dynamic cultural mosaic that is our community. Our creative partners on stage and our Theatre Orangeville Youth Singer programs, I'm pleased to say, are back stronger than ever. Kids are coming out all over the place because they want a unique arts experience. And of course, these programs celebrate all abilities. On average, between 4,000 and 5,000 elementary and secondary school children visit this building every year to see a show at Theatre Orangeville, Orangeville Music Theatre, and other organizations here within the community. In celebration of our 30th anniversary, every school that attends Theatre Orangeville this coming season will do so free of charge, with an added supplement that will be given to each and every school towards busing costs. The reason why we're doing this is last year at the Christmas show, we did a straw poll. Usually we'll say, if we have 275 children upstairs, we'll say, how many of you have been here at the theater before? And usually 250 hands will go up. And we're talking grades 3, 4, 5, 6. Last time we asked it, 25 hands went up. We said, no. Just to be clear, how many of you have attended here before? And 25 hands went up. And we realized that between a work stoppage in 2019 in the educational system and 3.5 years of COVID, these are COVID kids, and they had never been in the theater before in their lives, and some of them were up to 10 years of age. So we're really excited about that. I do apologize in advance to town staff because, as you can well imagine, every school within an hour of Orangeville will be coming to this, and there's going to be an amazing kid vibe happening in the building weekday matinees around 10 o'clock, so I do apologize. As to the management that we have undertaken on behalf of the town of Orangeville, we were recently awarded a capital grant from the Ontario Trillium Foundation in support of upgrading accessibility and health and safety infrastructure. This latest capital grant has enabled the theatre to address community needs by securing and implementing on behalf of the town of Orangeville a portable accessibility lift system that is just now out in the hall and is waiting to be taken upstairs, 12 new listing devices, 3 new stage draperies, and the resurfacing of the stage floor and proscenium to make it a safer place. Upgrading the accessibility now makes the entire space compliant with health and safety standards and fire codes. This latest upgrade now brings the total dollar value of capital investment that Theatre Orangeville has been able to provide for the Orangeville Town Hall Opera House to just over $750,000 in the last 10 years. Theatre Orangeville also provides $70,000 directly from our coffers annually in-kind contributions through facility staffing, facility improvement fund, and online ticketing service that are all used by the town of Orangeville and its residents. Just to give you a quick snapshot of what's been happening up there with the usage, in 2019, 64 user groups, and Theatre Orangeville used the space 234 times for a total of 298 events, or as I like to remind the PIA, 298 experiential opportunities to discover all there is to discover and love about downtown Orangeville. In 2022, that dropped to 16 and 169 for a total of 185 uses. Now in the first 6 months of 2023, we are up to 148. The last 3.5 years have been extremely difficult for the arts community, both in this community and across the country. We in the cultural sector would like to thank council and town staff for all that you have done in the partnership that we have enjoyed over the last 30 years by exhibiting leadership that supports a vibrant and vital sense of creativity in our community through freedom of personal and artistic expression, diversity, inclusion, compassion, truth, honor, individuality, and respect. Thank you for continuing to celebrate not only the creative cultural spirit of our community that all of us here enjoy, but perhaps more importantly, for supporting members of our vulnerable sectors, especially children. Upstairs in a safe and welcoming environment fostered by each and every one of you, council and staff alike, where young people are able to discover not only who they are, but can find the courage to stand in the spotlight, downstage center on the stage of life, and speak honestly and openly from their hearts without fear, ridicule, or judgment about things that matter the most to them. Thank you. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nairn. It is always a pleasure to have you come and let us know what's going on in the theater, and I appreciate the passion for which you speak. Any questions, Deputy Mayor? And then Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Nairn, for being here. And I just want to say, first of all, everybody knows I'm a supporter of the theater, but I feel like you are going to call me and ridicule me because I have not yet bought my season tickets. And I want to share with everybody publicly that I will be doing that. And I encourage all others who are just as tardy as myself to do the same. I know the first play has started and I hear it's excellent. So kudos to you and your team.
Through your worship to Deputy Mayor Taylor. Thank you, Mayor Taylor. We look forward to seeing you there in your theater. It's all of your facility, right?
Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Nairn. As usual, it's nice to have you here. Maybe you could just remind the general public about the phenomenal large gala that the theater will have, and maybe put a plug in. I don't want to mess anything up, so I'll let you do the plug.
We do have a large fundraiser that's coming up on November the 25th, or 'twas the night. It's a great gala event. It's an opportunity for us to showcase the talents of young people. That's what we're all about here, is really showcasing the talent of established artists, but most importantly of young and aspiring young people and young artists. So thank you very much for that.
Any other questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Mayor Post, through you. I would just like to really thank you, Mr. Nairn, for coming today and for your theater providing the offerings for local youth and schools. I know that my school has taken up the offer of Theatre Orangeville for the free programming. As we know, affordability is such an issue right now, and being able to offer children a free experience is truly a wonderful thing. So thank you.
Through your worship. Yes, Councillor, thank you. It was something that was over and above our annual operating budget. And it's through the support of members of this community, direct support, that we are able to offer that to kids, because we feel it's one of our founding tenets. It's one of our founding principles. The very first program that happened, even before we did a show on the main stage with professional actors, was the Theatre Orangeville Youth Singer, was a children's choir. That was the first program that was established in the theater company, because that's always been one of the bedrock platforms of the theater company, is the opportunity that we provide for young people. And as I say, there's going to be 5,000 of them tearing through the halls pretty soon. So over the course of the next year. So thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Nairn, and have a wonderful rest of the day. We will see you at the theater soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Up next, we have Anthony Zambito, who is presenting regarding a crosswalk on Dawson Road. Mr. Zambito, if you can just come forward and have a seat.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor and councilors, for having me. This was meant to be a short presentation, but one that regardless I wanted to do. Why we should put a crosswalk on Dawson Road northeast of Center Street. So here you can see a picture. That is Dawson at Center. As you can see, it's a three-way intersection, mainly residential neighborhood, located right in between a Catholic elementary school and a Catholic parish. There's traffic concerns in the areas. Number one, there are cars that pass through this area. I don't know if you're aware of the dynamic and the layout of the church and the school, but A lot of times people park at the school as opposed to in the church parking lot because it's not, there is enough parking for everybody. So cars regularly pass through this area. In addition to that, school children pass through this area as well on their way to school Mondays to Fridays, as well as when there are parishional or parish activities happening during the day and the kids walk across the street. Obviously, I didn't finish that sentence, but I was wondering if crossing guards are in that area. Mass and church-related events, as I said, lead to people crossing the street regularly, especially on Sundays and Saturdays. So here I just basically drew it in. The yellow areas represent 3 possible locations where a crosswalk complete with lighting signals can be located. As you can see, these 3 locations are located and connect the parking lot, the church, as well as the school. Benefits of having a pedestrian crosswalk in this area, plain and simple. And this is meant to be a joke. It will give Orangeville OPP a chance to ticket motorists and generate revenue for our spend-heavy governments. Somebody tonight was talking about a funding deficit, and maybe this can be a drop in that bucket. According to crosswalksafety.ca, in 2006, 42% of pedestrian fatalities occurred on roads without proper crosswalks. Again, people cross this street regularly. Motor vehicles are quieter now than ever before. As you know, Teslas as well as hybrid vehicles are meant to run incredibly quietly. Pedestrians are also more distracted now than ever. They could be listening to music, earpods in, they could be on their phone. We would also incentivize parents to bring their young children to Mass because I know parents that don't like to bring their kids. Some of them because they're disruptive in Mass and also because they have to carry the stroller and everything across the street. When I said it was a quick presentation, I wasn't kidding. I don't like the idea of, toddlers and moms holding their hand while cars are going across the street and they're forced to jaywalk when they shouldn't have to. I also don't like the idea of the elderly trying to hurry and cross the street while there's traffic waiting. So that's what prompted me to be here today. Thank you all.
Was there any questions or comments from council? Councillor Sherwood?
Yes, through you, Your Worship, to Mr. Zambino. I appreciate your presentation. I just want to let you know that I've lived in that particular neighborhood for a little under 40 years, and I've never seen it to be an issue. There is a crossing guard at Dawson and Madison. But when I think about, I have been down that road many, many times, like thousands of times in that area. It's 40 kilometers an hour. I do not see an huge influx of people trying to cross there. For the church time, people are very respectful as people are crossing over. I know myself, I've slowed down and let people go through. They're not speeding and carrying on there. So I just don't understand the want for this all of a sudden, because I certainly don't think there's been any fatalities or any car crashes or anything there. It's just my own personal observation because I do live in the area. I just wanted to ask you, rather than coming to council about this, had you approached and spoke to staff and asked them at all about this?
Which staff are you talking about, sorry?
Are any public works staff? It would fall under our transportation division. Have you spoke to any of them about this?
No, I thought to present it to council.
Okay. So I would ask that maybe Mr. DeLuce, if you could to speak on this, because I could be out of line here, but I don't see how this area would warrant any type of, are you talking a PXO crossing that you're asking for?
What kind of crossing, sorry?
I'll let Mr. DeLuce explain this.
Mr. DeLuce, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Sherwood, thanks for the opportunity to speak to it, and thank you for your presentation. Certainly, we have not received anything from the public as it relates to a PXO type crossing, which is a public crossing. It would be similar, the way that I see it, if I'm interpreting your request, is very similar to the one that is on Centennial Road in front of Georgian College, and the one that's on Alder Street in front of Westside High School. So those are the PXOs that I think Councillor Sherwood is alluding to, if I've understood you correctly. I've not received anything. I know Mr. Koslak had his hand up as well too. He could speak to it as well. But certainly those type of requests would come through our office. We would look at it from a justification standpoint, and the Ontario traffic manuals speak to justifications, which means volume versus pedestrian crossing interactions. I'm not aware of any right angle collisions that would happen as a result of this type of crossing in this location, or rear end collisions for that matter. So certainly I would offer that to you, Councillor Sherwood, as information to help you make your decision depending on what the will of council is. But if you're asking me what the process would be from this point forward, we would engage a traffic consultant to look at the warrants, prepare a report, and then we would attach it to a report with our findings. We are working, I should say, I apologize, a little slip there. We are working on a policy to present to council as it relates to these type of requests. It would go hand in hand with our stop sign policy.
Thank you, Mr. Jalise. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor
Your
Sherwood.
worship. Yes, and again, just quickly, Mr. Jalise, so to do that study, it comes at a cost, estimate approximately, before I put my question back to Mr. Zambito.
Mr. Jalise.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we typically would do a study. The cost of that study, depending on the complexity of it, is somewhere between $1,200 and $2,000.
So Sherwood.
So my recommendation here is, I'm not going to speak on behalf of my fellow councillors, but I myself personally think that you need to maybe speak with staff and do some conversation and maybe provide them with some data and some justification, and maybe they could bring something forward in the future if they think that the cost of a study is warranted. That's just my thought.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood.
Okay, is there any additional questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess my take on this, I have no judgment of whether we should have it or haven't. I mean, it sounds like it would be something that our public works staff would undertake. I think the interesting piece to me is typically you can see these things coming, and there's a rising amongst the neighborhoods, and there's people contacting, and there's noise and whatnot. I haven't heard anything about this one. So lots of times if you want to get something through, the good thing to do is have a petition or other people speak about it. And perhaps that's an avenue you could go as well in terms of having engagement for the area and those that would use that section as a cross. So just as a thought for yourself.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Mr. Koslak has comment as well.
Yeah, through your worship. If staff can take this back and meet with Anthony, talk a little bit more about the concerns, more in specific, if there's certain days or times or events, and then we can try and look at it and see what options are available. And then we can bring it back to council at a later date.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Koslak. Any additional questions? Okay. You can hang on there, Mr. Zambito, because you are our next delegation as well to talk about the 1 million March for Children. So you have 5 minutes for that one now.
Thank you, Mayor Post. Before I begin my presentation, actually, I wanted to ask council specifically, there's a 2.5-minute video that I wanted to include there. It's a video that Lisa Post posted on her social media page that would put my presentation to about 8 minutes. I'm wondering if that's something that you would allow tonight.
I think everybody on council has seen the video. Have you all seen it? Yeah. So you can probably omit the video because we've all seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So to get started, my name is Anthony Zambito, and I am an independent journalist living here in Orangeville. Today, I will be giving council a recap of my ongoing investigation into the 1 million March for Children that took place across Canada, as well as in Orangeville. As we wait for the slide to come back on. Thank you. Yes, so this is my presentation. So what was the Million March for Children? The march took place on September 20th. Marchers in Orangeville were told to meet at 9 a.m. at the War Memorial and that they would walk through town. Planning for this march started as early as August, but likely started sooner than that. By early to mid-September, marchers started advertising the march, the whereabouts, online and via a mailed out flyer. As you can read in the presentation, according to their website, they are uniting diverse backgrounds and faith. They share a resolute purpose, advocating for the elimination of sexual orientation and gender identity, as well as some other things. And this would be an example of an education policy that these marchers were marching against. The Peel District School Board. This affects our neighbors to the south in Caledon. Marchers were marching against initiatives like the Two-Spirit and LGBTQIA+ action plan, which insinuates that everyone who doesn't support the LGBTQ agenda is effectively oppressing the LGBTQ community. You can read all of this online. It's available in public information. The lefty liberals reacted. When they heard about the marches, they started planning and organizing. Labor groups such as CUPE, the Ontario Federation for Labor, and the Canadian Labour Congress started organizing counter-protests to trail and essentially annoy marchers. This was demonstrated in Orangeville the day of September 20th. Mayor Post made a 2-minute video to chastise the 1 million marchers. For the sake of time, I will not play the video, but I will say that it was a polarizing video, especially as many Orangeville parents don't agree with her claims or her proposed solution. So here we are on the march. September 20th came around and the march happened. Former Mayor Jeremy Williams took this video. In it, it captures almost 100 marchers, participants marching peacefully through the streets of Orangeville. I'm trying to play this video. We'll see if it plays. Unfortunately, it didn't. But in that video, you'll see a short clip of the many marchers making their way through town. This was an article that was printed by the Orangeville Banner. You can read it online, but I wanted to focus on some of the highlighted areas. After the march, the Orangeville Banner published an authorless article riddled with unverified and possibly untrue information. You can read the article online, but I wanted to focus on the highlighted areas. According to the Dufferin OPP, you can see on the left towards the bottom, the march was peaceful and no arrests or charges were laid. Dufferin OPP chaperoned the entirety of the march. On the top right corner, you'll read that despite this, the Upper Grand District School Board told the media that marchers committed vandalism and harassed the school's occupants. We'll see in a future slide that this has been unverified by the Banner. In the bottom right corner, you could see some statements made by local groups, including a group called the Youth Activists Incorporated. And I want to highlight that if I could. Youth Activists Incorporated condemned the march based off of the reports from the Banner. Youth Activists Incorporated is ran by Dimitro Basmat. Basmat brags publicly about his close ties with the Dufferin-Caledon Liberals. And Youth Activists Incorporated is based out of Ches Place in Bolton, a recreational space for confused and vulnerable kids. Ches Place and Youth Activists Incorporated are so intertwined. If you click on Ches Place's website, it will direct you to Youth Activists Incorporated. I repeat the name, Youth Activists Incorporated. I mention this because the lefty liberals insist that indeed they are not radicalizing or indoctrinating our children.
Time warning, because you're getting close on your time. So just if you
Thank you.
keep it up.
The Banner was unable to independently verify this information from the Upper Grand District School Board, as you can read here in yellow. So as a result, I am trying to follow up with Trustee Rafe Mesenbrink and UGDSB Communications Manager Heather Loney. They've yet to respond to my multiple emails, nor provide evidence of any criminal activity happening on September 20th. So to conclude, so far in my investigation, I've come to the following conclusions. Either Dufferin OPP or the Upper Grand District School Board is lying to Orangeville residents. Culturally speaking, this event highlights the fact that the lefty liberals are now the reactionaries. And third of all, lefty liberals are using the fake news surrounding this event to promote a false narrative that right-wing protesters are violent and aggressive, that the right wing wants to erase trans people's existence, and that the lefty liberals aren't trying to indoctrinate our kids. These are all untrue claims, especially here in Dufferin-Caledon. Thank you.
Is there any questions from any members of council? No. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Zambino.
Thank you, Ms. Post.
Next up, we have Frank Nagy. Come on up, Mr. Nagy. You are up next, Mr. Nagy. Come on up. If you could just have a seat.
Councilors?
And reminder of 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm here to talk about, my name's Frank Nagy and I live in Orangeville. I live up in Howard Crescent, and up in our area up there, I guess you know, it's kind of a small knit community around the hospital area there. And we have a lot of homes that are being renovated over the last 3 to 4 years, and we're getting massive amounts of garbage bins, and we're talking very large sized, commercial sized garbage bins. They can be anywhere from about 5 feet wide to 16 feet long, 5 feet high. And of course, they will sit there all summer long and just fester. I'm in a worse position because I live next door to a fella who actually has garbage bin business. So every year he brings a garbage bin in next door. He parks it in his driveway right from the beginning of the summer, right till the end of the summer, until I call bylaw and have bylaw have him remove this thing. Well, of course, we don't love it because we have to live next door to this garbage can, right? So I've been working with people such as Carolyn, if I may, and I'm not sure, there was a couple other people that were involved. And I had sent several pictures over the years and videos about, you know, the kind of goings-ons that happen, right? And I'm not the only one. There's other people in the neighborhood too. And nobody really loves to see this thing sit there. Like, we understand people want to do renovations. That's absolutely fine. And I think our problem is that we have a very weak bylaw with respect to construction in the area. And being a residential area, sometimes we have house flippers and different people moving in, and then they park these things there and they just leave them there and they fill them absolutely heaping over the tops. And of course, it gives the opportunity for all of the people in the neighborhood who don't want to pay to have GFL pull away garbage, such as, you name it, toys, plastic pieces of this, garbage, debris from the backyards, et cetera, et cetera. And they see these bins and they say, hey, this is great. I can just throw my garbage in here at night. And, you know, and it's great when it's not in your backyard. But when it's next door to your house and it's been going on for 4 years, it's kind of really not an acceptable practice, in my opinion. And I'm an Orangeville resident for several years. I've known Andy, Councillor McIntosh, for many years too, and I brought it up to him as well. And the ladies at bylaw have been working with me, and I also have, I don't know, they brought some planning people aboard. I'm not sure if they're planners or what they do, because I'm not big on the structure. I don't understand it at all. My key goal is, why do I have to live next door to a garbage bin every single summer? Our area is very small. Our driveways are maybe 4 feet up between one driveway and another. And all of a sudden, this massive bin gets dropped there every year. And of course, food gets put in it, you name it. The animals come, the skunks, the raccoons, and they fester around there. I can't leave my garage door open because I'm afraid something's going to get in there and just, you know, make a home in there. And it's been very difficult for us. And we've had the bylaw people come out twice now, and it didn't, I seem to get the same answer. We don't have a strong enough bylaw. There's no, people are doing construction unpermitted. And, you know, little things like this, and, oh, they're allowed to leave the bin there for 90 days a year. It was 365 days a year until a couple of years back, someone changed it to 90 days. But even at this point, 90 days gives somebody the opportunity every single summer to park a bin there and say, I'm going to throw all my garbage in there. I don't care if GFL picks up the garbage. And the rest of us have to live with it. There's a lot of neighbors that, it's always good when it's not in your backyard because they don't want to talk about it. I'm having to live with this. He moved in 4 years ago, and 4 years ago, every year a bin has showed up. And the ironic part is the name on the bin is exactly the truck he drives in and drops it in there. So I'm guessing he must work there. So for him, the bin is free, everything's free. We need to come up with some sort of a way. Like right now, I'm looking at health and safety issues. Can't get out of my driveway. We have a lot of kids going to the new park. As you know, they're building a new water park or a water splash pad up by Howard Crescent. There's a park. And we already have lots of dog walkers. We got runners coming down on the sidewalk. We got all sorts of things, older people pushing their baby carriages and all that. And my wife and I were trying to back out of the driveway. We can't see anything. All of a sudden, boom, a bicycle comes smashing into the side of the car. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is just awful. We can't have this. And I'm trying to get the council and mayor and people to understand how dangerous this really can be, right? And now that we're going to have more foot traffic when we get the splash pad in there, everybody's going to be coming up there. It's great that you guys managed to get the parking settled where they're only allowed to park on one side of the street. That has been a miracle. And I want to thank everybody for that.
Time warning, you're at the.
But anyways, we have issues with the smell. We got issues with the fire, it being, 2 to 3 feet from the houses. We got issues with, oh boy. But anyways, it just doesn't seem like right. And I just wish that we could get together and get the council to come up with a way to strengthen the bylaws in a way that somebody just cannot do that, right? Like in my conclusion, I just wanted to say that we have suffered over 4 years over this thing. And I think bylaw and other Orangeville is trying to do their best. I've sent several pictures and they seem to tell me the same thing. We can't really help you, or we can help you, but nothing ever really gets done because the next year again. All I want to know is that if there's a way that we can set up some sort of proposal so that people have to have permits to do stuff and permits to have a thing in there and more control over why is it there? Does it necessarily have to be there? Or are you just putting it there for your own convenience so that you and your neighbors can, friends can throw garbage in there all year round, right?
Okay, I'm going to stop you there.
Yep.
And I'll open it up to the floor for questions. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. First of all, just to town staff, if we could we at some point look into this monitor, because it's blocking me entirely, and I think it's probably for this other side too. I can't even see Mr. Nagy.
I can kind of see it.
We need to address this moving forward if we could. And secondly, my question to you, Mr. Nagy, is why does your neighbor, it's such an odd thing, maybe I'll back up, as someone who just did significant renovations and had a bin, unfortunately, in front of his house for a long period of time, it made sense that you would do that. And I'm sure it was upsetting to the neighbors, but there was a reason for it. Why would your neighbor have something in the driveway every summer? What are they doing?
I'm not exactly sure. The first year they did renovations when they moved in. After that, it just seemed to, so we were very good about it. We figured they just moved in, let them do their thing, and they'll be soon done. And then the next year again. And then I start to notice, wait a minute. He must work for this place because he keeps bringing this garbage bin over here, and he just leaves it here for the whole summer until I call bylaw and say, I got to get this thing out of here. At one point, when one of your bylaw officers went over there, it became a big issue. They got very angry with us, and he never told them that it was us, but he did get very angry, and his wife got very aggressive, and the neighbors got aggressive, and we've kind of been not in a good way there. And being there since the house has been built, I don't really have the answer to what's the right thing to do, but I'm sure there is a way that we can, when you do permitted things, They pay for a permit. I've never seen permits on his house.
So, Mr. Nagy, I
I've
think
never seen
I
any.
wonder if we could, Your Worship, that this is such a unique circumstance, and there was some mild conversation prior to you coming. There was some discussion.
Thank you kindly.
To make sure that we would have some sort of resolution. I just think this is such a unique thing, and you know, the conversation that we had. I don't know that we're going to solve yours here tonight. There is bylaws in place regarding bins that, you know, the majority of us must follow. I think what we owe you is probably a follow-up privately and some sort of mild discussion about what we're going to do about your unique situation. But I don't see us changing the bylaw or moving forward in kind of different way here today. So my suggestion would be is that town staff, in conjunction with perhaps the mayor and maybe myself, we get in touch with you and we can talk about what we would do with this offline. And my comment would be, I guess I appreciate you bringing this forward, and I'm very sorry that that situation is ongoing for you, but it will be unique versus the rest of the residents based on what you're telling us.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I agree with you 100%. I kept bringing that up and saying, you know, I understand that people have to do renovations, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. It just seems like it's become a community garbage bin, right?
And anything that you wanted to add?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, just asking Ms. Khan if she has anything else to add.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Carolyn. Councilor Carolyn.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Nagy, for attending today. I'll just keep my comments general. Whenever we do receive complaints with respect to work that may or may not be appropriate or have appropriate permits, we do loop in our building division to look into those types of complaints. With respect to the 90-day rule, that is something that is contained within our zoning bylaw. That is a restriction within that bylaw. So should it be the will of council to amend that, then that would mean an amendment to the zoning bylaw. With respect to permitting of bins, that would also be something that council would need to consider in terms of a service level change, because that is a type of permit that we don't currently offer in the town. So that would be another point of consideration. But yes, with respect to the particular concerns raised by Mr. Nagy today, we are working with him and have looped in the appropriate divisions in order to get at a resolution for this issue.
Thank you very much, Ms. Khan. Councillor McIntosh?
Thank you, Mr. Nagy, for your presentation. I'm certainly glad I don't live in your place. I think this also could be possibly a property standards issue, that we could look at it from that point of view. If the garbage bin is full, it needs to go. But yes, we definitely will fix this problem.
Ms. Khan, do you have comment about that?
Thank you, through Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh. And I did mean to mention that in my previous comment. From a property standards perspective, as you'll remember, we did update the property standards bylaw in 2022. So we do have the ability today to deal with the types of issues that are being mentioned tonight. Our officers are able to act on problems with respect to waste, infestation, those types of things. So as the problem arises again, it is something that our officers will be able to address.
Thank you very much, Ms. Khan. Any other questions or comments from council? No? Thank you very much for being here tonight, Mr. Nagy.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be in touch through the clerk's department or through the bylaw department.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Up next, we have Mary Rowan. I hope I said your last name right. Come on up, Mary. Again, speaking on the Million March for Children, and you've got 5 minutes. And the mic's already on. If you don't mind having a seat, we can just see you at the...
I would just like to ask, I appreciate Deputy Mayor's comments about the visibility. This is a sensitive issue, and it's nice to be able to see people's faces. So is it okay if I stand? Because that way I can see everyone's face.
Sure.
The monitor is quite obstructive, so thank you for saying that. I will start my timer so I don't go over.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Rowan, and I'm a resident of Orangeville for over 25 years. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay. And I am here today to respond to your invitation for people who attended the Million March for Children to have an open communication with you. I'm not on Facebook, but a friend sent me the post, and I do appreciate your invitation to have open dialogue. I think that is so important for such a sensitive issue. Just to be very clear, the stated goal of the Million March for Children is to eliminate the SOGI 123 curriculum and policies from Canadian schools. That was the goal. Okay. Having said that, I want to tell you a bit about myself and why I'm here, a bit about me. 2 stories I feel are relevant. One is about a ring I wear on my right hand. This ring was given to me by a dear friend who died of AIDS over 30 years ago. I put this ring on the day that he died, and I have never taken it off. I was with my friend the day he died, and I watched him take his last breath. I was 21 years old. I nursed him for months. I cleaned up every type of body fluid. I held his hand, all the things the media told you that you should never do with a person that had AIDS. I share this with you so that you can decide if I look and sound like a woman who is unloving, hateful, or anti-gay. That's just a story I wanted to share. The second one is the story about my children's now 105-year-old grandmother, who is also a resident of Orangeville. As the matriarch of the family, I went to see her seeking her sage wisdom when I found out I was pregnant with my first child. I wanted to know her thoughts on finding out the sex of my first baby. Her first great-grandchild. She paused and smiled and said these words to me. Mary, there are so few good surprises in life. Let this be one of them. And I took that advice to heart. And what a great surprise it was when I was blessed with both a girl and a boy. I'm blessed with one of each. As God created them, male and female, he created them. Genesis 1:27. Imagine, if you will, if Gigi had paused and thoughtfully said, Mary, in 20 years from now, that won't matter one bit. The education system, public and private, will teach your children at a young age they can be whatever they want to be. Prepare yourself. In 20 years, you will be taking to the streets and standing up in front of your municipal council explaining your concerns as a parent, how the school system is failing our children. Your local school boards and government agencies will circulate notices accusing you of violating human rights, of being intolerant and hateful. I couldn't have imagined. To be perfectly honest, Mayor and members of council, I was not aware of the SOGI 123 curriculum. I had no idea. I was completely ignorant. I educated myself and I was deeply shocked at what I found, and I am deeply concerned, and that's why I'm here today. Hard to turn pages when your hands are shaking. Our children are our most vulnerable members of our society, and that's our job to protect them. And that's every parent's job, every parent's desire. Recently, I heard from a young man in our community who's in his final year of school, and he told me, and I quote, "School is hell." He said, even if they don't believe the ideology that's being pushed on them, they are not allowed to speak against it, and they have no support in school. And yet the day of the march, notices were sent out by the guidance office telling students if they felt triggered or unsafe by the hateful marching parents that they could go to guidance to feel safe. I have brought each of you, members of council and Madam Mayor, a copy of a book called Implosion, When the Pendulum Swings Too Far. The book is by local author Dr. Anne Gillies, and I'll tell you a bit about her. She has a PhD of philosophy and professional counseling and has spent 25 years in clinical practice, treating adult survivors of chronic sexual abuse, rape, and kidnap. She has been a licensed practitioner for over 2 decades with the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. Dr. Gillies retired from practice in 2019 and has since focused on research and authored 6 books. So there's a copy here for each of you and one for the CAO. In Canada, it has never been the job of our publicly funded institutions to raise our children. It is the job of parents. Historically, we remember countries that have used children as pawns in their political scheme, like Germany's Hitler, China's Mao, and Egypt's Pharaoh in the days of Moses. These men are not remembered fondly in history, and we must remember history. History has not changed, nor has basic biology. The culture has changed. And we are now living in a world.
You're getting close to your time there. So
thank you.
Thank you.
We're now living in a world that thinks nothing of sacrificing the hearts and minds and bodies of our children. Madam Mayor and Council, we are fast approaching a world we will barely recognize in a few short years. We are heading yet again at lightning speed down a very dark path, a world in which our feelings rule the day, in which every whim is catered to and celebrated, a world that demands we must accept and celebrate with the culture or risk being canceled or called a slur of names. These are procedures, recommendations, hormones, and irreversible surgeries that we're subjecting our children to when we tell them they can be whatever they want to be. And this kind of culture is tearing families apart. That is why we are here. I'm sure many in the room are here for the same reason I am. We are not hateful. We are parents who love our children, and we love all children. They are innocent by their very nature. They haven't lived. They count on us to be the adults with sage wisdom. So I will leave these books with you, and I would ask that you deeply consider the content and please do some research like I did. And I did not know this to be true, but this is what is being taught in our school systems, and this is the consequences in this book.
Thank you for your time and thank you for being here. Was there any questions
very much,
from members of council? No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay, we're going to go into the period of question period. Any member of the public connecting via telephone is reminded to press *6 to mute and unmute. Was there any questions on the line? No? Okay. Was there anybody in the gallery wishing to ask a question? Mr. Ramsey, go ahead. And just a reminder that question period remarks are kept to 3 minutes, please. And we are on a tight schedule tonight. Heavy agenda still to come.
Thank you.
Mr. Ramsey.
My name is Noel Ramsey. I live here in Orangeville on Feed Street. As I've mentioned previously to council about my concern about traffic safety, particularly in the no stopping zones around the schools. Primarily in the neighborhood that I live, ODSS, we have the elementary school children walking through the high school area where there's no sidewalks. And there's a lot of no stopping signs where there are many cars that are parking. I raised this a couple of years ago. I raised it at the beginning of this year. I've sent emails to a number of councilors as well as to council themselves and to the clerk, and it's been followed up on. My question tonight is, can you give me some form of update as to any progress that has been made that's different to what has been attempted in the past and any change in the results that we've seen?
Mr. Smith, do you want to take that one? Okay, over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much for the question. And through you, Mayor, our bylaw staff have been on site as they are on site throughout all the schools in our system. I know that they have issued some tickets recently. I myself have been on site 3 times and have observed the parking. We have just recently appointed a new supervisor of bylaw, and that person started today, so that will provide some assistance. I do note that we have a number of schools in our community, and our experience, our anecdotal experience from our bylaw officers that are out regularly is the school in Mr. Ramsey's neighborhood is lower on the priority list than some of the other situations.
Thank you very much.
If I could just add to that, I have been to all the different schools within Orangeville to investigate the stopping locations, the roads as well. This location is unique because you have an elementary school that the children are being dismissed and they walk through the pickup and drop off area of the high school. That does not exist anywhere else in Orangeville. The risk is not high school children getting hit, it's elementary schools getting hit. These are little children that are walking hand in hand. I sent pictures into the town where 3 or 4 children are walking. There's one adult pulling a cart with a toddler in it and another 2 of them walking. They're not holding hands. We can't force parents to make sure that they're tied together. But I've got pictures of these kids on the road, walking between cars, no sidewalks on this road, and there are cars parked on both sides while buses are going between those cars with kids on the road. This is a unique situation. It is not like the other schools. So I would respectfully ask that a serious look be taken. I don't know if we've changed any of the practice with regard to asking the officers to be more forthright with issuing tickets as opposed to issuing warnings. I have noticed them issuing tickets on 2 occasions, 2 drivers. But on many occasions, I've seen them show up, bylaw enforcement show up, talk to the drivers and wave them on. And the report from the bylaw officer himself is he has seen in a week and a half 40 vehicles that he approached and asked to move on without issuing 1 ticket. That's from the bylaw officer himself. So since that happened, I have come forward and asked for something different to be done. That's why tonight I'm asking, is there any progress in the state of the situation?
I think as you've heard from Mr. Smith is that we've got some new team members on board. We're continuing to monitor the situation and we're continuing to adjust our practices as necessary, if that's fair to say.
Are we advising them to issue tickets rather than warnings?
Mr. Smith?
To you, Your Worship, we don't get directly involved with bylaw enforcement. We don't direct them to do something specific. I know Mr. Ramsey believes that I do. I don't. I leave it on to their expertise and their judgment in the particular case. I do know that we have issued tickets. Some of the statistics he's quoting are old statistics. You know, they're things that he heard a month or 2 ago. I can say without doubt that our bylaw officers do visit all of our schools where they feel a ticket is warranted, they warrant it. The other challenge, of course, is if cars don't stop, then they circulate and that creates more traffic. So they're looking at a variety of factors rather than just the one that Mr. Ramsey is advocating for.
Perfect. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Ramsey. You mentioned sidewalks, Mr. Ramsey. Can you be specific again, since you're bringing that up? What streets exactly should have sidewalks?
Sidewalk ends at 22 Faulkner.
So you would want Faulkner to have sidewalks all the way around?
Well, at least to the next intersection. You've got to get the children on the sidewalk to at least the next intersection where cars do not show up for the high school.
So I have the luxury of having sit here now for 2 terms. So I do have history with this. That statement's confusing to me, just because I'm not doubting whether or not you think it's a safety issue or not. You'll have your perception and you live there, so you'll have a better idea than I do. But we did go down the path of looking at having sidewalks in that area. There was a petition that was done by the resident that lives on the corner. And then there was opposition from people who lived on that street who did not want the sidewalks. And the opposition was louder than the people, wanting to put forward saying that they wanted the sidewalk. So I guess my counsel would be is if the neighborhood wants the sidewalk, then you would have to get the neighborhood again to say that that's what they wanted. And, then I guess our town staff would do the research and see if there's a need. So maybe that's something that you could take on, but it's confusing to me because there's polarizing views of we want a sidewalk, we don't want a sidewalk. I know what the engineers would say. They would say that there's not a need for a sidewalk, but sometimes that doesn't matter. It matters about the people that live in that area and what they deem as necessary. And right now it would be confusing to me who sits here, and maybe Councillor Andrews or Councillor McIntosh and yourself, Councillor Sherwood, would have differing views. I'm not sure, but we all sat here and listened to that last term and it was quite polarizing. So
my request is
perhaps going around the neighborhood would.
I just want to be very clear. My request is not for a sidewalk. My request is just to enforce the no parking bylaw in a no stopping zone in front of a school. That's all.
No, and we appreciate that, and we are continuing to monitor the area. And I guess I'll leave you with tonight that we're hearing feedback from the bylaw officers. We're sending them out and asking them for feedback. As Mr. Smith said, we don't direct bylaw when to issue a ticket, much like I don't tell the police officers when to do that. We let law enforcement enforce the law. But what we do is hear their feedback as they come back and after they've monitored situations, and they can come up with creative solutions to those problems. And maybe there's other solutions that aren't just ticketing or not ticketing. There are other potential things we can look at, and we'll continue to do so.
Mr. Smith made reference to old statistics. If you want to see the current statistics that are continuing just like the old ones, if you take a look at the Quick Fix, which is the town's tool, you will see those records in there.
We appreciate that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Was there anybody else in the gallery wishing to ask a question? Mr. Smith, go ahead.
Hey.
3 minutes.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Post. I hope your toe is feeling better.
Thank you.
Actually, my question is about sidewalks. I wanted to ask Mr. Curry about it, but I think he's gone for the evening. Oh, you're here. Oh, sorry. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I just wanted to know if the road reconstruction projects that are anticipated for the future, if they've taken adding sidewalks into streets or roads that currently don't have any, if that's been considered.
Mr. Curry, glad you're still here.
Madam Mayor, through you to Mr. Smith. Yes, when a road is reconstructed, we are putting, if it doesn't have one sidewalk on it, we are putting a sidewalk on one side of it.
And that's been built into the cost estimates? That's been
Yes.
Awesome. That's what I want to hear.
Thank you. Thank you both. Anybody else in the gallery wishing to ask a question? See, oh, go ahead. We just need your name and address for the record. Yep.
My name is Graciela Mustafa. I live on 27 Hewitt Street. Thank you again, Mayor and councillors. I'm here again, advocating for democracy and advocating for the truth. During September 14th, there was an email sent to Mayor Post inviting dialogue. This email was sent through the organizers of the 1 million March for Children. And in the email, it stated that, briefly, I won't read the whole thing, but it says that our mission is to unite people for a noble cause, to safeguard children from gender ideology teachings, sexual indoctrination, exposure to explicit sexual content, ensuring that parental consent remains paramount. That was the invitation for dialogue. They said, we ask that you take the time to meet with us during the march to address these concerns for the people in which you represent. We will be in front of Orangeville Town Hall on September 20th at 10 o'clock and ask that you address us. That was the email sent on September the 14th to Mayor Post. Now, as a leader of this community and after advocating for dialogue in your Facebook statement, I was wondering, why did you not address the parents, the grandparents, and the concerned citizens? Are they not members of the community as well? Are they not taxpayers and voters? Don't they deserve to be treated equally as stated in our Bill of Rights? That's one question. You further denounce any form of hateful rhetoric and discrimination as for your words verbatim, and that may be associated with this particular event. Since when is a safeguard of childhood innocence an act of hate? Since when are parents asserting their parental rights and parental consent an act of hate? That is not an act of hate. So I'm wondering, right, as our Bill of Rights, who is really discriminating and who is really fueling this hateful rhetoric? It's not the parents. Thank you.
Was there any additional questions from members of the gallery? Yeah, if you can just state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Glass. I am from 648 Main Street, East Shelburne, Ontario. I'm also a business owner in the area. And I just wanted to, again, ask, and I'd like to thank the council and Mayor Lise Post for giving me time to ask this question, but with regards to your video statement regarding the 1 million March for Children, I was saddened to hear the following statement prior to the peaceful march that took place September 20th, 2023. Your comment stated, I must stress that Orangeville is a place where everyone should feel safe, welcome, and respected, regardless to their gender identity or sexual orientation. We value the diversity of our community, and it is our individuality, and uniqueness that makes us stronger and more vibrant. I am wondering how everyone can feel welcome and respected when a group of parents, grandparents, and other concerned citizens are not welcome to conduct a peaceful march in the town of Orangeville. That's one question. It is only with regards to gender identity and sexual orientation that makes Orangeville a welcoming place. This is actually very concerning to me. Should Orangeville not welcome everyone in general, or is it only welcoming when it relates to gender identity or sexual orientation? Mayor Post, does your Orangeville not welcome a group of people who want to march against something they are concerned about and they feel safe, welcome, and respected, regardless to their opinions? The Million March for Children was stated that the reason for the march and concerns, I believe this was emailed to you. Why would you not respond to that email and engage in dialogue prior to such allegations publicly on a group? I believe it was clear the reason for the march was stated: safeguarding parental rights, advocating for the removal of elements of sexual orientation and gender ideology from the education system. I'll just add to that, I don't believe any exclusive club has any place in our education system, neither mind an exclusive sex club. No, they removed religion out of our education system because you wouldn't want to have a Muslim child indoctrinated into Christianity. So why would we want our children be indoctrinated into sexual ideology? That's why we were marching out there. Our primary concern is the indoctrination of the children in the public school and the forceful indoctrination of ideologies into the children and the erosion of parental rights in our child's education. We had no other agenda. So I'm not going to get through all this, but I just want to let you know that I was one of the organizers of the march, and I really took this personally, your comments, because I came to your office with my friend Kim over here, and we asked if you would speak to us. Your assistant said that you would give me a call before the march, and you never did. And then you say that we didn't reach out to you. Well, we did reach out to you. We also reached out to Sylvie Jones. We also reached out to Kyle Seaback and the Upper Grand School Board. In a good democracy, one of you would have at least responded to us and got back to us, or maybe even came out and met your citizens. Now, my question is, will you apologize for this statement that you tweeted out or put on your Facebook page, or will you back up your words and show us where this hateful rhetoric and this discrimination is coming from on our part? Because I myself am definitely, the guy who registered this march, I'm certainly not a homophobe. You know, we talked about Orangeville Theatre earlier. I used to be in the Orangeville Music Theatre where I played a drag queen in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Back then, you had to be 18 plus to participate and 18 plus to attend, the way that it should be now. This town throwing on drag shows for children and drag reading for children is not acceptable. This isn't stuff that our children should be exposed to. I'm the father of a 3-year-old daughter who will be entering the education system next year. And I'm a very concerned parent, and that's why I was marching.
Thank you for being here, Mr.
And I would
Fox.
like it if you could make an apology or retract your statement before the next council meeting. Thank you.
Was there any other people in the audience wishing to ask a question? Mr. Zambito?
So I'm just continuing along with my investigation here. Councillors, I'm going to be asking you some questions. Feel free to respond yes or no and to give comment. Councillors, have you seen photo, video evidence showing that Orangeville's 1 million marchers committed vandalism and harassed the occupants of Princess Elizabeth Public School on September 20th? We'll start on this side. Councillor Stevens? No? Sherwood?
Do you have additional questions, Mr. Zambito?
I do. If we're going to go no comment around the board.
Go ahead. Anything else?
Thank you. Have you, all councillors, either a personal or political capacity, communicated with the Upper Grand District School Board about the events that happened at PEPS on September 20th? Comment? Thank you. The OPP? Not all at once. Thank you. Youth Activists Incorporated? Thank you. Mayor Post, as previously stated, many accomplished, well-educated Orangeville parents disagree with your claims and proposed solutions respectfully. How do you reconcile these polarizing remarks?
Stand by my statement and I would state it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more.
Was there anybody else who had questions?
I did have one more.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Zambito.
Thank you, Mayor Post. This is for all you councilors and mayor. Sorry, bearing with me. Is it a good thing for local Trudeau subsidized media companies like the Orangeville Banner to publish unverified information? Thank you, everybody.
Is there anybody else in the gallery wishing to ask a question? Okay, seeing none, we will move. Oh, go ahead. If you can just have a seat there, state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Dipna Carolyn, 48 Blue Heron Drive. My question is, when are you going to have the dialogue that you said you were going to have? And why are you not responding to any of the questions?
If you're looking to have something changed with the curriculum, that's done at the provincial level, and your best bet would be to speak with Sylvia Jones as your provincial representative.
I'm referring to tonight, the question period.
I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody. If you want to reach out to my assistant and book an appointment, we can absolutely do that. I will absolutely meet with anybody who wants to meet with me about anything. But if you're looking to change the curriculum, your best bet is to deal with the provincial
I didn't
government.
say anything about looking to change the curriculum. I'm just curious why I hear the presentations and their concerns, and they take their time to come to council and bring their concerns. And if it was about a garbage bin in the driveway, there was quite a bit of conversation. But when it comes to our children, mom's the word. Like that's surprising.
We're listening and we're taking away your information. So we appreciate everybody being here and for expressing themselves. Absolutely. Okay.
You had a lot to say about us at the, after the march, but yeah, I find it very cowardice that the community come and ask a question and nobody responds to it. Like, what's the point of having question period if there's no dialogue?
No, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay. At this point, I'm going to call for a recess and we will come back and do the consent agenda. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. Thank you for being patient with us. We are going to move into item 13, which is our consent agenda. This is the first time that we have had a consent agenda as part of council, so please bear with us as we stumble our way through this. So with a consent agenda, the idea is that we will vote matters of routine nature collectively as one motion, unless there is an item within those suggested items that you would like to remove and speak to separately. So the recommendation in the agenda is that all consent agenda items for the October 16th, 2023 council meeting listed under 13.1 staff reports, 13.2 correspondence, and 13.3 committee board minutes be received, and that the month of October be proclaimed as Probus Recognition Month. Now, before I call for a mover and a seconder, I just want to see if there was items that any members of council would like to remove from that consent agenda and discuss separately. Seeing none. Oh, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be. Okay. All right. So I will ask for a mover and a seconder then. Councillor McIntosh and Councillor Stevens. Questions or comments? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. We will move then into 14, which is staff reports. We will start with community group pavement markings, report CMS 2023-42. The recommendation is that that report be received. Called Community Group Pavement Markings Update, and that council directs staff to review future recommendations made by community groups and provide recommendations for council consideration when appropriate. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Andrews and Deputy Mayor Taylor, sorry. Questions? Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just want to thank the authors of this report for their thoroughness and the opportunity to engage with the different community groups that, in fact, were participating in the dialogue. I know that some of the discussion was robust, but at the same time, the opportunities to take a look at alternative ways to recognize the different community groups, I think, is a good recommendation. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Item 14.2 is the Hanson Boulevard and Edgewood Valley update. The recommendation is that report INS 2023-60, Hanson Boulevard and Edgewood Valley update be received. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Andrews and Councillor Prendergast. Questions or comments? Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor McIntosh.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to go out there as professionally as I can and say I'm not happy about this situation. We have spent money on infrastructure. We have committed to an area of our community that we are going to have this done. And I certainly understand the business rationale. I'm not so naive that I don't grasp that. I just feel like settling this or receiving it or approving it is the wrong thing to do. And I think there needs to be follow-ups and consequences to this. And I'd like to talk about that as a council group. I don't necessarily have something I want to put forward, but I cannot leave this as it is without, at the very least, a protest vote if I can't make a change. So I just wanted to lob that out there to start and see what everybody else is thinking.
Councillor McIntosh.
Thank you. I feel very strongly about this too. This is a safety issue. It's about time we started playing hardball with these people. I asked 2 years ago, town staff, whether we could just pave it. Town does the expense and pays it, gets it done. And I was told at the time that either way it would be completed at the same time. Well, that is no longer the case. So I guess I would ask staff, why can't we just pave this ourselves? And when the developer wants to develop, they pay us.
Mr. Koslak, I'll turn it over to you.
Through your worship, I guess right now the lands are owned by a private developer. They're not town possession, so we don't physically own the property to be able to build the road. And I guess the other part is we'd have to do the detailed design for the road. And we'd also have to plan where the developer would have their entrances, the sizing for their water, their sewers, gas, all the other utilities. So with that, we could undertake it if the developer agreed to give the land, but it would take considerable time to do a detailed design, get all the utilities sorted. You probably wouldn't be constructing until 2025, probably if we did the design. So it would take about a year to complete the design and approvals. and do the work. The other thing is the town would have to front end the money for the construction, which is in the order of $7 million. And then you'd have to try and have some kind of a front ending agreement to recover the money from the developers. So with that, I guess we'd have to borrow the money to do the work. So there would be a cost to doing that work. So we are trying to work with the developer closely and try and encourage them to get them done. There's a follow-up meeting on Wednesday with staff and the developer. We'll have more information then, and we'll try and give them a little bit of a nudge to encourage them to go forward. I think part of it was the timing too. Getting into the fall type weather, for them, there won't be really much gain to start construction in the fall because they won't be able to open the development. If they do proceed, they probably would start first thing in the spring, and that way they could get everything completed in one season and be able to start building houses. So part of it's about the planning, part of it's the financial, but we'll know more once we talk to the developers about it.
Councillor McIntosh, follow up.
Thank you. I hear what you're saying. I just think maybe the developers would get off their butt if we suddenly designed our own road with our own entrances. They might realize that they need to get involved. Yeah, I just find it very frustrating. Is there a way we can put a hold on any more construction in that area? I know we went through that. Yeah, but there's still construction going on.
Not in that neighborhood. We've already done that, right? Mr. Koslak?
Through your worship, for most of the developments in the area, there is a hold until Hanson's done. Maybe I'll let Brandon explain a bit more in detail, but for most of the developments, there is a holding until that's completed.
Mr. Ward. Oh, so I didn't even see you sitting there. I'm so sorry. I'm looking around going, who is he talking to? Sorry, Mr. Ward, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, just nothing further to add beyond what Mr. Koselleck explained. There are some land use approvals granted in the area around Parkinson Crescent and Hanson Boulevard, more towards Veterans Way. They're land use approved, so they still have additional approvals to pursue, and their holding symbol restrictions applied, particularly more to the lands around the Parkinson Crescent area that do require the connection of Hanson Boulevard to be completed before anything advances.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Smith and perhaps Mr. Koslak. I'm just thinking, like, this project was done approximately 15 years ago. It was probably approved 17 or 18 years ago. And here we are today. I would love to see a post-mortem done on the property. And I've only been on here for 5. This would have been the genesis of perhaps all of my time in Orangeville. I came here in 2002. It's been a disaster from the get-go. And the interesting thing, none of the staff were here. None of the council were here, and yet this project started ages ago, and now we're sitting here, and it's been, honestly, this is probably the 3rd or 4th blatantly unsatisfactory thing that's happened to me since I've been on council in that Veterans Way subdivision since we've been dealing with this. So I'd love to have a learning moment if we could, as we, at some point we're going to start to go out further. What went wrong with this Veterans Way subdivision, and what can we do to get around in the future? And also, I'd just love to understand, like, what was the discussion? How did we get here in the first place? Sometimes understanding a little bit of the history helps you with the future. It is not a solve, and I'm still not happy with where we are, and I'd love to hear from everybody else. But yeah, understanding the rationale for how we got here would be great.
Mr. Ward, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Thank you, Worship, and through you, I can speak perhaps to the subdivision status with respect to the Edgewood Valley subdivision in question. It's quite an old subdivision. It dates back to 2010. As with any subdivision, they progress largely at the pace of the development proponent. There's a little really the town can do to motivate or incentivize that to go forward. It really is at the pace of the developer. A decision option could be a recommendation and a decision to refuse that application, but essentially in doing so, you terminate it. You make them start from scratch. So like many development matters, we try to work proactively with the developer, reality being it's at their pace to pursue it. February 17, 2021, Council granted draft approval of that subdivision. A condition of that approval requires that Hanson Boulevard be constructed and completed to our satisfaction. Now, with that draft approval, there's a time frame that the developer needs to satisfy those conditions within, and it's no less than 3 years. So As of February of next year, that draft approval will lapse unless the developer applies for an extension. Now, they'll need to do so and demonstrate why an extension is needed. And council will have the ability to grant that extension or deny it. If they deny it, that essentially terminates the draft plan status. It sends it back from scratch. I would not recommend that route because that really is the only venue to facilitate the completion of this subdivision or Hanson Boulevard. Council can, however, decide to extend it for a time period that it chooses. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years, it could be less than that. But a word of caution on the time frame. You obviously want to entertain a reasonable amount of time for the work to be done and approved to our satisfaction, but you also want to motivate the developer to move more expeditiously.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Councillor Sherwood?
Yes, through you, Your Worship, just a commentary to kind of express my opinion on this. This has been incredibly frustrating. That road needs to be opened. At our term of council, I remember having these discussions in 2019 and hopeful that things were going to, start to progress. We know that we can't demand a private property owner to do anything with their properties. I'm wondering, is there any way at all that we could ask this developer, who I might add is new to the ownership of that property. They seem to come in ready to dance with us and say, yes, we'll put the road. And now they're dancing around the fire and they're not coming through with what they led us to believe was going to happen. So now I'm thinking, because this is going on, I think back in 2019, yes, we're going to get that road open. They need that road open. Bottom line is we owe it to the citizens to continue that road, pave that road. Can we now go back to our dance partner, the new developer, ask them, can they gift us the land and we bite the bullet and we open up that road? I don't know any other solution other than we continually get told it's going to be the fall, then it's going to be the next month, and then it's going to be the next year. And here we are again, further and further delays. And I still don't honestly believe that this development is going to happen anytime soon. Are we able to ask them to gift us the property and we build this road?
Councillor Sherwood, I'm going to take it one step further from what you've asked, actually, and then I'll turn it over to you, Deputy Mayor. I'm extremely frustrated by this report as well. I'm extremely frustrated with the developer and what their stance is on continuing the road. I recall them being at council to ask us for zoning amendments. We spoke to them at that point and talked to them about the urgency of this road. They committed to, if we help them with their zoning amendments, then, they're going to be a good neighbor. They're going to build the community. They understand how important it is. And now we're hearing this. So my ask would be, can we have the developer, request for the developer to come to a council meeting and sit here with us and tell us and the citizens of Veterans Way exactly what is happening. I would love to see that as a community partner. If they want to be in a partnership and help us build a good, strong community, then this would be the next step. Because quite frankly, we've held up our end of the bargain, which was making sure that the culvert and the bridge was built. Their guarantee was that they were going to follow that up with immediate construction on the road. So my ask would be, can we request for them to be here to answer to us, to answer to the citizens themselves? Mr. Ward, maybe you have some thoughts?
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. We can certainly take that back. We are discussing with the developer quite regularly. It's top of mind for us all. We do expect a report back to council in the near future, whether it's by way of an agreement brought forward for authorization of execution. Ideally, that's the preferred and most desirable route, but that takes time. That takes some further negotiation and trying to get through some of these more tactical nuances specific to this project and its relationship to the creek crossing, among other matters. The key milestone would be the reporting that would likely need to happen as part of that nearing lapsing date. That would likely be a good venue to hear from the developer themselves as to the status and the progress of this, if we don't report to you before that.
Councillor Sherwood has a follow-up and then Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to Mr. Ward. I just think of everything that's just on hold regarding this, like our transit route and, extending that and getting those people on buses, not just, the safety issue of coming through. But Mr. Ward, specifically, my question to you is, you mentioned that we have approved tentatively in some developments over there. Are we now then going to be at risk of them going to the land tribunals. And, you know, because we have not advanced our decision making, then we're getting into legal costs as well, because we're not allowing development because there's no road. And these developers are saying, we're ready to develop. And now I worry that we're going to be sitting at the land tribunal.
Mr. Ward and then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Sherwood. So with those specific development areas in question, they're land use approved. They have not filed applications to lift that holding symbol restriction or pursue site plan development applications. So with those developments, there is no risk of being taken to the tribunal on a non-decision basis because they have not filed those applications. And quite frankly, it'd be premature for them to submit that type of application when the key condition, i.e. Hanson completion, has not been completed.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just trying to be as practical as I can about this entire experience. And as I think about, you know, lots of times we want to put on ourselves and say, okay, we're going to solve this and we're going to go and we're going to build the road. I don't know what that road would cost. And I imagine Mr. Koslak, you'd throw out a number of $6 to $10 million, something crazy in that. 7 million. Thank you, sir. We don't have it. Right? Like we do not have the ability to do that. So we have to be honest with ourselves and take that off the agenda right away. My solution was going to be is similar to what's exactly what Mayor Post had said and have them here. But I would caution everyone too, and you think about what they're dealing with. It's like in business, what is it that they're up against? And they're up against what a lot of Canadians are up against, and that is massive inflation. The ability for people to pay right now on a depressed asset. So the house has fallen in value. And then the interest rates, because that would be a levered position that those people would take. So I understand it from their end, but it doesn't solve it from our end. But we just don't have the ability to do it unless we have these people as partners. So we need to think about ways as partners to get them to come back to the table. And having lynching, or maybe that's not the right word. That's a terrible word. I want to take that right back right now. Thank you. I apologize to everybody that I even said that. We're going to put them in some sort of prison cell in some sort of way and admonish them. That won't get us. That won't get us anywhere. So we need to find a different way. Just want to say again, I'm really sorry I just said that word. That was terrible. So I apologize.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Mr. Ward, and then Councillor Sherwood, I'll turn over to you in just one sec. So Mr. Ward, your recommendation then is that we receive it as is. You can take our comments about asking the developer to come forward. I don't need to add that to my motion. That can just be kind of common dialogue, or do you need that added to the motion? What do you think? No, we're good. Okay. Receiving is good. Okay. Councillor Sherwood.
Your Worship, I was just going to ask if we had to put those details in a motion.
Perfect. It looks like no, we don't need to. So we're going to keep the motion as is. Was there any final comments? No? Then I will call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Item 14.3 is the Ontario Housing Affordability Task Force recommendations. There was a feedback request, and this is the report to go along with it. The report is INS-2023-64. The recommendation is that report INS 2023-64, Ontario Housing Affordability Task Force recommendations, feedback request be received, and that staff be directed to submit the comments contained in the attachment number 3 to this report and the letter from Mayor Post to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, which is correspondence item 13.2.9, in response to their request. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Andrews and Councillor Prendergast, questions or comments? No, seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. 14.4 is the Joint Water Municipal Supply Management Model. The recommendation is that report INS 2023-65, Joint Municipal Water Supply Management Model Tier 3 update be received, and that Council direct staff to proceed with updating the Tier 3 water budget study as set out in report INS 2023-65 and the Joint Water Supply Management Model Agreement. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Stevens and Councillor McIntosh, questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. 14.5 is regarding engineering services. The recommendation is that report INS 2023-66, engineering services, reconstruction of Cardwell Street and Dawson Road be received, and that council approve the transfer of funds in the amount of $23,910 from project 31122-0000 to project number 31121-0000. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Sherwood and Councillor Andrews, questions or comments? Councillor Stevens?
Through you, Worship. On Dawson, there won't be any impact for the fire department or volunteers getting there.
Mr. Curry?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Stevens. When we do the work on Dawson Street, we will work with our fire department partners. Yeah, we will be putting a new curb in front of, because currently there's not a curb in front of the fire hall. So we will actually have to do it half and half or plate it, but we would work with the fire department.
Thank you. I'm sure you took that into consideration, but I just wanted to make sure.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Absolutely, Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? No, seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. We will move now into notice of motion prior to meeting. We do have one notice of motion that was submitted prior to the meeting by Councillor Prendergast regarding the installation of stop signs over on Preston Drive and Parkinson Crescent. I will turn it over to you, Councillor Prendergast, to discuss your motion.
Thank you, Mayor Post. I'll begin by reading my motion as was submitted prior to the meeting, but I do have an amendment to read afterwards, but I'll read the first. Whereas the town of Orangeville and council must consider the changing needs of residents and their neighborhoods, and whereas neighborhoods in the town of Orangeville must be safe for residents who use active transportation such as walking or cycling, whereas Preston Drive is being used temporarily for construction purposes and will remain an emergency access point for Avalon Long-Term Care Home, whereas residents require safe crossing at Parkinson Crescent and Preston Drive to access the Parkinson Crescent Park, including the installation of an always stop and subsequent curb ramping. And whereas the town of Orangeville and council are authorized to approve an always stop on the basis of the immediate community need, now therefore be it resolved that 1, council directs infrastructure services to install an always stop at the corner of Preston Drive and Parkinson Crescent, including the appropriate curb ramping to promote accessibility and active transportation. 2, and that the town's traffic bylaw be updated to include an always stop at the intersection of Preston Drive and Parkinson Crescent. And I just have amended that, if that's okay, Madam Clerk. I'm going to go just read it again. Is that okay? Should I do that? Okay, whereas the town of Orangeville and council must consider the changing needs of residents and their neighborhoods, whereas neighborhoods in the town of Orangeville must be safe for residents who use active transportation, such as walking or cycling, whereas Preston Drive is being used temporarily for construction purposes and will remain an emergency access point for Avalon Long-Term Care Home. This is where it changes. And whereas residents require safe crossing on Parkinson Crescent along the stretch between Laverty Crescent and Preston Drive to cross the road to Parkinson Crescent Park, including the installation of a stop sign or an always stop sign as necessary and subsequent curb ramping if necessary. And whereas the town of Orangeville and council are authorized to approve stop signs on the basis of immediate community need, now therefore be it resolved that 1, council directs infrastructure services to install a stop sign or an always stop on Parkinson Crescent between Laverty Crescent and Preston Drive as deemed appropriate by staff, including the appropriate curb ramping if necessary to promote accessibility and active transportation. 2, and that the town's traffic bylaw be updated to include a stop or an always stop at the intersection of Parkinson Crescent deemed appropriate by staff. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Prendergast. Can I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Andrews. And I just wanted to let the rest of council know that it just in discussion with Councillor Prendergast ahead of time, the reason for that change is because there was other areas along that strip that were suggested as potentially a better location, but still along that same section of road. So we'll leave it up to town staff to determine what the best location is for that. Okay. Councillor Sherwood and then Councillor Stevens. Councillor Stevens and Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Sherwood. Yeah, I just want to mention that Councilor Prendergast and myself met some residents in that area, and it certainly, we deserve to put a stop sign there. They need it, just with the crossing of into the park from the residents.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Sherwood?
So I'm going to live up to my name here, Your Worship. I don't want to be a Downer Debbie or Debbie Downer or whatever, but I don't know if I'm ready to support this right at this time. Our community is polluted with stop signs. And, you know, I want to know that this is justified, because I was in that area. I looked at possibly 5 spots along there that you put a stop sign here, then this street wants a stop sign. And again, we get up to, is it justified? I was hoping that maybe we could consider that we send this back to staff to do a study to see if it's warranted. If it comes back warranted, I'm in full support of it. But every time we get asked for a stop sign, we know that the next thing we're going to hear is there's a stop sign and people aren't stopping at the stop sign. So I would like to see this go back to staff.
I'm going to ask Mr. DeLeese maybe to make comment, because I believe that you were on site for the meeting with the residents as well. So, okay, go ahead, Mr. DeLeese.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the councillors and the others as well. I was on site with councillors Pendergrass and Councillor Stevens, and we met with the community, some of the members of the community. And certainly one of the things that we're looking at as part of this, let me take a step back to 2010 when this development was designed and constructed. We weren't quite sure where the pressure points were going to be. This is a very similar situation when we look at plans, we look at collector roads, we look at the number of units that are coming out of those collector roads, and we make an educated guess as to where stop signs in new communities were going to go. One of the reasons we didn't put one in this location at the time is because we weren't aware of the full build-out potential of Parkinson. We have that better understanding now. So we certainly understand where the pressure points may be. To answer your question, if I can jump ahead to that, Councillor Sherwood, we could take it and do a study. I suspect that the warrants wouldn't be met. However, this is a prime location for crossing to the park. One of the things that we heard during that discussion on site with the councillors present and the community is that there are a lot of young children that want to cross Preston. There are no stop signs on that road right now, and that they need to get across to the park. So that was one of the things that we heard. So certainly we could take it back, do a study, and perhaps the warrants wouldn't be met. However, this is as good a place as any, because it is a long stretch of road. And one of the things Mr. Koslek and I, as well as Mr. Ward and I, are looking at when we look at development potentials, including Edgewood Valley that we were just talking about, is that we look at long stretches of collector roads and how do we break that system up? In other words, where are the pressure points going to be? And our best guess scenario, or our educated guess scenario, is going to be here. So certainly that is a long drawn out way of saying that it likely would not be warranted. However, there is a good place to cross, and that would be one of them. So as Councillor Pendergrass amended her motion, it was input from the community that we received, and we certainly collaborated on putting that motion together with her. I just wanted that to be out there, full transparency.
Thank you, Mr. DeLeese. Councillor McIntosh.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Pendergrass. Just to confirm, Public Works is going to tell us the best location. Okay, I wasn't going to support it originally because we're even getting conflicting stories from the residents where they want it. And we don't want a stop sign every intersection. But if Town Works says that's the place for it, I will support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say, first of all, I'm going to support the motion. I think it's a good thing anytime we can help with traffic safety. One of the things I think we're missing as a council and a town staff team is, we did all the analysis a while ago about traffic calming measures, and specifically, you and I were at an event in Elora or Fergus recently, and they've got the markers down the middle of the roads that make the road narrower, and we've yet to implement that in our town. I know there's other areas in town where we've got speed testing going on to see what the traffic is and what those rates are. I'd love to see us try that in another area. Candidly, I think it would be a better solution than the stop sign. But you know, it's just something we haven't done. And residents often talk about speed bumps too. They often think that that's the solution. And you know, there's maybe it's a previous regime now, Mr. Koslak, I'm not sure, but you know, the old regime didn't want speed bumps. But I just like to see us start to try these things. Like those are two examples that I've seen in other communities work. You know, I think as a layman looking at them, I think they're working quite well versus what we're trying to do here. And you know, I know it's not a perfect thing that we're doing, but you know, it's coming from a benevolent place. So I think I'd love to see that if we could do that in these future things and be planful as we go.
I would just add to that, Deputy Mayor, that I think this one, though, is more about having a safe crossing area than it is about speed calming, traffic calming. So I think your comments are spot on. I think that we've got things in our traffic calming bylaw and booklet of our suggestions on how we can move forward with traffic calming that would be very appropriate on some roads. I'm not sure that this would be the right road for it, just because I think this issue is slightly different, where it is more about having a safe place for the kids to cross into the park, and having a stop sign stops traffic there to allow a safe place to cross. Additional questions, comments, further remarks from anybody? Okay, I will call the vote if everybody's ready. We've got a mover and a seconder. All in favor? And any opposed? Councillor Sherwood opposed. Are there any notices of motion at tonight's meeting? Seeing none. Do we have any announcements from any members of council? Councillor Prendergast and Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor Post, through you. I would just like to announce the success of Sustainable Orangeville's Fall Tree Planting Day, which we held on Saturday. We had about 50 community members come out to plant 186 native shrubs and trees, and fun was had by all. And we look forward to the next event and encourage you to come out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prendergast. It was a lot of fun and we didn't get wet, so that was even better. Councillor Andrews.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship. And I have three. I will be brief, but talking about getting wet and or inclement weather. Councillor McIntosh and I on September 29th, it's been some time since our last council meeting, we were the recipients, as well as the 7 other municipalities in the County of Dufferin, of what is called the first ever local emergency support service trailers. And these service trailers, as you may recall, I think it was last Christmas, we had the severe snowstorm. There were people that were unfortunately stuck in our community who couldn't get out. Some, well-minded people took some people in, but because of this, the county as well as the municipalities stepped forward with a, collective embracement of emergency support. And so thus we have our own support service trailer that can accommodate and support up to 50 people, which includes cots and blankets and also some food if necessary. But a great initiative. And again, I know that Councillor McIntosh and I were really proud to be the recipients of this. And if there was something that was more on a larger scale at the county level, then our trailer would be utilized for those purposes in other locations within the county. Second point I just wanted to talk about is the utility boxes, the 4 recipients. And again, through our Economic Development and Culture Department, I want to thank them and our communications team as well. We have 4 recipients who have been recognized for their utility boxes, and they are beautiful. And we have now close to 30, if I'm not mistaken, across the town. The recipients include Becky Morris. We also have Michelle Johnson, Candace Tatum, as well as Judy Island. And these 4 are going to be highlighted in a communication from the town of Orangeville's communications department. And lastly, we do have a new hockey team in town called the Orangeville Blitz. Honored to drop the first puck on Saturday night. If you have an opportunity, drop by Saturday nights at the Alder Complex. Some really good hockey and, some opportunities for people to win some prizes, but support a new initiative in our community. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Stevens.
I'm going to turn my hat around. And as a member of Orangeville Minor Hockey, I just want to thank town staff. We had one large tournament in town in September, and the town staff were excellent. If I could give every one of them an award, I would.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. I just wanted to add that this Saturday we've got a busy BIA downtown. It is the annual Boo on Broadway celebration downtown, and from 10 till 12, the Broadway will be busy with young ones trick-or-treating in their costumes, going in and out of stores. I would like to remind the community that the road is not closed for that, so please come down to Broadway, but take extra caution and watch out for our little ones that are going to be trick-or-treating from 10 till noon. It's always a fantastic event. It also coincides this year with the final outdoor farmers market. The fall farmers markets are my absolute favorite because we get all the really great local vegetables. So have a look before we move indoors. And also on Saturday downtown at 11 o'clock, there's going to be a book launch in the atrium here at Town Hall while the farmers market is going on and while the Boo on Broadway is going on. There's a local author by the name of Nancy Early who has just finished a children's book about the history of Orangeville, and it is fantastic. So if you have an opportunity at about 11 o'clock on Saturday, pop into the atrium for that as well. Was there any other announcements from anybody? Nope, seeing none. Okay, we will move into bylaws then. The recommendation is that the bylaws listed below be read 3 times and finally passed. There is a bylaw to confirm just the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Orangeville at its closed and regular council meeting held today, October 16th, 2023. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Andrews and Councillor McIntosh. Questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. And the favorite, a recommendation to adjourn. Please, can I have a motion? Councillor Stevens and Deputy Mayor, all in favor? And that is carried. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. We'll see you on Saturday downtown.